welcome again to another tutorial with Jeremiah. We'll be talking tonight about for loop, the for loop. So quickly we're talking about it. The for loop is just declared with a for keyword followed by a variable name. A variable name. After the variable name, we will call the in keyword, then another variable name, which must be declared beforehand, then followed by another followed by a colon after it. Now, we'll be talking about the difference between the for loop and the while loop towards the end of the video, but I want to explain to you how the for loop works. So the for loop just iterates over a sequence of value. It goes through over a sequence of values. For instance, tonight I'll be introducing another data structure in Python for us, and we'll call that a list. A list. So a list is a data structure in Python that looks just like this. Having, for instance, just as the name implies, a list, if I say fruits, I equate it. It comes with this square bracket, and the reason why we call it a list, just as you might have already guessed, it comes in form of a list. Don't put it that way. So in this case, we have banana, we have apple, we have what else? Pear. So by declaring this, fruit equals this, I've declared a list. So this is the data structure in Python. It takes in any value. It's not only string, it can take in a number, it can take in as an integer, it can take in a float. So in this case, I have fruits and I want it to take in just fruits, and these are actually placed in strings. So the for loop iterates over a sequence of value, and a list happens to be a very good example of a sequence of value where we have banana, apple, pear, plus the sequence of value, right? So it iterates over it and pick one of them after the other. For instance, if I want to iterate over this, of course, the word iterate should not be new. We talked about the while loop. You can check the video on the while loop. The word iteration, I mean, it just means going over a particular given set of values. So in this case, we're saying for. Now, we're going to introduce a variable name that must not be declared before use. So meaning we're introducing a variable name right into the for loop statement. So this fruit, you can see it's different from fruits. So take note. I'm just saying fruit. So I'm introducing a variable name there. I'm saying for fruits and now fruits. So I'm saying for fruits and fruits. Now I say print fruits. In this case, I'm referring to these fruits. I'm saying it should print out fruits. So what it does is it goes over this list one after the other, picks the first one here, prints it out, goes to the next one, prints it on a different line, goes to the third one and prints it on a different line. So why not, let's run it and see what we have. So in the result down here, we can see we have banana, apple, and pear, each appearing on a different line. So that's just a very good example of fruit. Another way where another thing you see most of the time where people use the for loop most of the time is in terms of range. Range is a function in Python that takes in at least, what's this? That takes in at least one parameter, at least one, and it's at most three. So in this case, we'll be dealing with one parameter. So for instance, if we put in 5 here, and take note, value x is a variable name, and I'll be printing x. Now, I've commented this out with a hash, so that's the comment. If I want to, the result Python gives me now is starts from 0 up to 5. So one thing you should take note about the range function is this. The range of values starts with the value 0 by default in Python. So it starts with 0 when printing. So the for loop goes one step after the other, just like in the case of the fruit, it takes banana first before apple. So it takes the first value in range. Range, just as the name implies, a range of value. So when we're talking about range 5, we're telling to start from the beginning 0 up to 5. Now, the thing about range is it does not pick 5. So the list of number generated, it will be less than this given value here. So it will be 1 less than the value. So for instance, let's just print it and see what we have. So if we run this, we're having 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see. So it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but does not print out 5. So that's one thing at the range. If you want to print out 5, you put 6 and you run it again. And you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 5. So that's basically how the range function works. It starts from 0 up till a number before the number specified. That's how the range function works. Takes in the value 0 and goes up till the number before the number specified. And in this case, we're printing x. Assuming we want to print the square of x, remember we use the 2 asterisks for it. 2 asterisks for square. And when we run this, take note, the first number is 0, that's 0 square. It still gives us 0. The next number 1, 1 square gives us 1. 2 square gives us 2, 3 squares gives us 9, 4 square 16, and 5 square 25. So it stops at 5 as always, but instead of printing out x, we said we want the square of x. So these are ways to actually get our answers fast and not having to do it repetitively over and over and over and over. So this a very good example I want to bring up now is actually giving the sum and the average of a set of numbers. So for instance, let's just close this out. For instance, assuming we have a set of values, let's put it in lists. So let me just give them different number. So whatever number, I don't want to repeat the same number twice. So we have this. We want to go over this set of numbers, print the sum of the numbers and their average. We want to show it out in form of a formatted string. I'll show you now. So we want the sum. We don't have a sum yet, so just say 0. And for us to get the average of this value, we need to know the number of values here. And of course, just by looking at it physically, we know it is 4, but how will Python know about it? So we just put the length of the value. Let's just put 0 for now. Now, here's what we do. We say for value in values. Now you can see I'm making use of values. I'm making use of value first just to make it more reasonable. It's not necessary to use value. I can use x here and it will still do the same work for me. So I'm just using value, so it makes it more readable. And it's speaking each of the value individually, speaking one after the other. So the issue here is sum is actually a keyword in Python. So let me just use let me just put sum of numbers, or let me just put sum of values. Yeah, let's put it that way. It always happen. Okay, sum of values. So for value in values now, I want to increase the sum by adding each of these numbers individually to this. So I'll be doing sum plus equals, take note of what I'm doing here. Plus equals, not sum, we've changed it to sum value. So sum value plus equals the value. Because we know it, we're picking this value one after the other. So for the first iteration, it picks 23, replace it with this value, also comes and replace it with the value. So 23 plus 0, that becomes 23. It picks 34 again. 34 becomes the value. Add 34 to the new sum which we have, that will be 23. So 34 plus 23 gives us the new sum value. So that's how it keeps going over and over and over. And also for us to keep track of the length, we want to add 1 to the length. So just like when it goes to 23, let me just bring this down a bit. When it goes to 23, it used to be length 1, adding 1 to 0. When it goes to 34, so meaning this and this are the two value. Goes to 45, so it adds 1 again, making it 3. So it keeps track of the length of the values we have here, so it can be able to calculate the average when we ask it to. So how do we calculate the average? Let's just work with the print function here. And one thing I want to advise, if you're just starting Python, is always advised use the f string. Most beginners concatenate and have issues adding and it messes up the code. F string makes it very easy to actually format the code, makes it easy to read and makes it clear. So in this case, I'll be using the f string and I'll be showing how it is used. Yes, I want to be telling them the total sum. So I'll be saying the total sum of values, let's use a colon here. After that, we know the sum of value is actually stored with this value, sum value. So I just paste that into this place and we have it there. So automatically, whatever the sum value is, it comes here at the end of the loop. Now, take note of the indentation. I forgot to mention it. It's also very important. Indentation is very important when dealing with loops, when dealing with if statements, when dealing with functions. Indentation is important. So this only applies under the for loop. So you can see the print is outside. So it does not do this repetitively. It does this only after the whole of this has been done. So the sum of the value, and we also want to print the average. Yes, the average. You'll just say the average. Yes, average of the values. I just did it that way. Average of the values, and the colon. Let's make use of colon, and the average of the value. Now we know it is. We're going to make use of division, of course. We'll be dividing the sum of the value over the length. That's just how to calculate the average. So it's something you can actually do at the end. It's something you can just do outside here and say average equals sum value divided by the length. So we can just do this. But if you did not do that, you can just put the all of this formula, you can put it right here, or you can just put average after declaring this outside here. So it works fine like this. And let's run this and let's see what happens. So it does the work for us. It tells us the total sum of value is 123 and the average of the value is 30.75. So just looking at it, let me see if I can actually add the number at the top of my head to confirm it. So this is 57. 57 plus this is 102. 102 plus this is 123. So it's correct. 123. So the average of the number will be 123 over 4, and this is the answer. So it works perfectly well, perfectly fine. So you can see what the for loop does for us here. It takes each value, assign it to some value, keeps adding it to some value repetitively after picking each of them one after the other. So meaning if I should add another number here, 34, so 123 plus 34, that should be 157. So 157, let me run this again. You can see we have our where is it? You can see we have our output here. The sum is 157 and the average it gives us instantly. So we don't need to rewrite any of this. All you have to do is keep adding the numbers we want to get the sum and average for. So that's just how the function the for loop works. Takes each value one after the other. And the range I talked about, it starts with the value 0 and ends with the number before the actual one stated. So you can just rewind it to get to see how I explained it over there. And yes, before we go, what's the difference between the for loop and the while loop? When should you use the for loop? When should you use the while loop? So you use the for loop. I decided to actually type it out so you can understand it just by looking at it. So you use the for loop when there's a sequence of elements that you want to iterate over, and you use the while loop when you want to repeat an action until a condition changes. So for the for loop, we already have a sequence of elements that we want to iterate over. In this case, we have a sequence of value to iterate. If you are using range, you already know the sequence of value to iterate 0 to the number before the specified one. But if you're using the while loop, you want an action to be repeated until a condition changes. If I should go to tutorial day 4 here, you can see the ones we did here. So there's a condition. So until this condition changes, whatever is underneath here continues. So to see more about this, the while loop, you can check the previous video I explained while loop in depth, where I actually explained while loop, explained everything about it, and even used actually more examples that will help you better understand it. So that's all about the for loop, and thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.